الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Hello everyone, welcome at the virtual webinar about the Saudi census in 2022. I'm very happy to have you all participating in this webinar, virtual webinar, which is being live for the virtual webinar, the webinar. I hope and wish you always be able to access the data and the information. I am having here in this workshop commission and Dr. Fatma also, and all the commission, of course, the authority members also will have three other experts who have worked recently with us, of course, on the Saudi census. We are very happy to have them sharing their own expertise about the Saudi census. It is very important role in providing accurate data and authentic data about the situation, the population of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other indicators, other insights that we really need in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And this helps further a lot to enhance and develop the policies and the plans across all the sectors in the Kingdom of Saudi relating to the Saudi economy and the growth and development. At the global level, census, of course, plays such a great role for investors and, of course, business people interested in the Saudi economy and also development and growth also, which, of course, inform decisions relating to investments in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to be well-informed decisions, transparent decisions of high accuracy. There is a much focus, of course, on the methodology adopted in the Saudi census, and this is the most important thing. We'd like to focus on the methodology adopted. Also, we have adopted in 2022, of course, census, we have depended and adopted the best practices when it comes to the Saudi census. We have used the best and the state-of-the-art technologies such as the satellites and other, of course, state-of-the-art technologies and also cutting-edge technologies. We have explained many weeks, and also we have talked about the interactive maps and other new methods and tools that we are very keen always to make them available to use for the different practitioners. I'm very happy, really delighted that one of the most important factors, success factors of census is the close cooperation and coordination with the entities and authorities relevant to our work. Equally important, integration and inclusion across the different data in terms of the census data, in terms of the administrative information and data, which help us also to increase and enhance inclusiveness and integration and the accurate data. As I've said, the best practices have been adopted and have been the bedrock of our own work and methodology, and have worked and helped us a lot, really, to have better practices, and also the great experts, international experts and consultants who worked with us, of course, in a more accurate way. I'd like to move to speak about the infrastructure in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Praise be to Allah that with the big transformation progress coming into play in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as of Vision 2030, we have found a great transformation technology, and also helped us to enhance the capacity and capabilities of the government entities and authorities to have better integration, better inclusion of the different records and data for better and more accurate data and information relating to census. As for the quality of work and quality of outcomes, we have a special team members dedicated in terms of the data review, data accuracy, validation, verification of data, and also more than 1 million phone calls or calls to ensure the quality of work, in addition to 900,000 field visits paid people. In addition, we have used the state-of-the-art technology, methods, tools, including benchmarking with 5 data resources, and also reviewing such information for different indicators, IP KPIs, which of course played such a great role in enhancing the quality of information. there is one important point which we will be speaking about later, and Dr. Conrad will be speaking and Dr. Fatma will be speaking about in more detail. But also I would like to speak about this in the introduction about what is it that we do in the of the things that we really did last time. And also I have spoken about this in the press conference, also re-estimation of the population or the census, the adopted we used in 2010 were depended really a lot on the field visits and other census methods. What we have today in 2022 depended heavily on the best than the state-of-the-art technologies that are made available, and also the integration, the administrative records that are different, which were totally different from what we had in the past. The figures, statistics published in 2010 up to 2011, 2021, were estimated based on 2010. Just a few weeks ago, we published and we republished the figures and the numbers, of course, published once in 2010, based on the administrative records, which were, of course, high in terms of quality, also helped us to have better, high quality or highly accurate information and data, to which, of course, we built our estimates up to 2021 based on the new records. Accuracy, higher precision in terms of the numbers, figures, statistics based on the best practices. A number of countries, of course, also contributed to this. So many developed countries such as the United States of America, UK, in addition to Australia, Germany, South Korea. All these practices have been at the heart and the bedrock of our work. Publishing the results will be based on two stages. We have announced several ago, the first stage, which is the population segments and composition. The first stage will focus on health, education, migration, in addition to diversity, and also over the upcoming period of time, we'll announce the results by and by. Have a look at the census and population. They are all made available at the website of the authority, and we hope to make them available always. First of all, the interactive maps, and they have really played such a great role for the researchers and also for the data users. In addition to the interactive map, in addition to the charts, pie charts, different information and informatics that are available on our own website. In addition, today, also, we will have a video that is in English and in Arabic, how to access such information and data in a more detailed way, and will be announced in the different social media. Today, the workshop, as I've said, it is the participation of the authority team members, where we'll showcase our own experience about the census, and Dr. Conrad and Dr. Fatma will focus on the results. Dr. Conrad will focus on the results to a great extent, and what is it that we have achieved. And Dr. Fatma also will be speaking about the quality of work, the procedures and the work that have been done, including the data collection, analysis, all the way to publishing the data and information. Also, the experts who have been working with us just recently also will share their with us and expertise with us in census. Now, I would like to move on to Dr. Conrad to speak about the results of the census. Please, the floor is yours, Excellency.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Fahad, and also good afternoon from my side. I had the pleasure to lead this project over the last 3 years, and I can say that with the Saudi census 2022, we enter in a new era of high quality data and statistics in Saudi Arabia. If I can have the presentation on my screen. Census data are important for many. I don't see the presentation on my screen. Census data are important insights in the size and the structure of the population. And this information is extremely important for decision makers, for researchers, for private sector. It enables data-driven policy making and planning in this country. And it provides an evidence base for investment decisions for international investors, just as well as local investors, and thereby will contribute to the Vision 2030 objectives. As Dr. Fahad has mentioned, we are publishing the census results in 2 waves. The first wave includes the themes population, which is the core part of any census, then information on dwellings and housings, and information on households. The second wave of publication will include the topics education, labor market and income, health and disability, and migration and diversity. Now coming to the main results of the census, and this is always the population number. And the population number in Saudi Arabia in 2022 is exactly 32,175,224 people. If you split this in Saudis and non-Saudis, we see that we have 18.8 million Saudis and 13.4 million non-Saudis. This gives you a share of 58% Saudis and 42% non-Saudis. Looking at male and female, we have almost 20 million men living in this country, and we have 12.5 million women living in this country. Gives us a gender split of 61% male and 39% female. Looking at the regional distribution of the population, we see that 3 out of 4 people live in 4 regions, and the main populated regions are Riyadh, Mecca, Eastern region, and Medina. Now, whenever you publish census numbers, you also want to talk about the development, how to get to those census numbers in 2022. So what we did, having available very accurate numbers on 2022, we took the administrative records on people being born, people dying, and also people entering and leaving the country in order to reproduce the historical numbers and to replace the estimates that were published previously by backcasting numbers, giving us a very clear picture of the Saudi population over the last 12 years. Looking at the backcasted numbers, we see that the population change between 2021, so the previous year, and the census year was a plus of 1.4 million people. On the Saudi side, it was 400,000, 2.2% increase, and on the non-Saudi side, it was almost 1 million, 7.9% increase. Over the period 2010 to 2022, we observed an average population growth per year of 2.5% for the overall population and also for the Saudi population, and 2.7% average growth per year for the non-Saudi population. Now, if we look back to the year 2010, when the last census was conducted, we observe a population growth to the year 2022 of 34.2% for the overall population and 33.8% of the Saudi population, 34.7% increase for the non-Saudi population. And if you look at the regions, you see that all regions grew in double digits in the period 2010 to 2022. Saudi Arabia has a very young population. The average age of the Saudi population is 29 years old, But if you look at the Saudi group of the population, you see that the average age is even younger at 25.5 years, whereas the non-Saudi population has an average age of 34 years. 63% of Saudis are younger than 30 years. The share for the non-Saudis is only 35%, being younger than 30 years. And if we look at the regional distribution, we see that the youngest region is Al Juf, with an average age of the Saudi population of below 22 years. Now, when we look at the age pyramid, which is the age structure of the population, we see that on the Saudi population side, we have a very nice shape of a pyramid. And this is, by the way, very rare internationally. Internationally, you see aging population, which is not having the shape of a pyramid, but you see the older ages being much more represented in other countries. This is not the case in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, we have a very, very young population. Now, if you look at the non-Saudi population, you see a very strong impact coming from the working age population between 15 and 65 years old, especially on the male side, shaping the age pyramid for the overall population in a different way. In Saudi Arabia, we have 31 cities with more than 100,000 inhabitants. The largest cities with more than 1 million inhabitants are Riyadh with 6.9 million inhabitants, followed by Jeddah, Mecca, Medina, and Dammam. Looking at the population of non-Saudis, we have around 13.4 million non-Saudis living in this country. The most populous nationalities are Bangladeshis with 2.1 million, or almost 16% of non-Saudis, followed by Indians, 1.9 million, and Pakistanis, 1.8 million, and also Yemenis, 1.8 million non-Saudis. 3 out of 4 non-Saudis are male. You see the overhang of the male population, and also 3 out of 4 non-Saudis live in 3 regions only, in Riyadh, Mecca, and the eastern region, which is again explicable by the labor market-driven migration into Saudi Arabia. Looking at marriages and fertility rates, we see that 55% of the population older than 15-year-old are married in Saudi Arabia, with a larger share for non-Saudis, 56.7%, and a slightly lower share of 53.2% for Saudi population being married. Looking at males versus females, we see that females are married to almost 57% of a share as compared to 54% for males. Now, looking at fertility rates, and fertility rates are children by women in childbearing age being defined as the age between 15 and 49 years old. Now, the fertility rate for Saudi population in total is 2.1 children per woman. But you look at the Saudi population only, and you see that the fertility rate is much higher, at 2.8 children per woman, whereas it is only 0.9 children per woman in the non-Saudi case. Looking at the fertility rates over the regions, you see that especially in the northern regions, we see higher fertility rates, both for the total population and for the Saudi population in particular, as compared to the rest of the country. In Saudi Arabia, we have in total 8.2 million households, residential households, and this is distributed among Saudi households, 4.2 million, and non-Saudi households, 4 million. If we look at the household membership, so the household size, we see that on average the household size is 3.7 members per household for all households. But if we look at the Saudi households only, we see that the household size is much larger, with 4.8 members per household, whereas on the non-Saudi side, it's only 2.7 members per household. And this household size varies over the regions. And again, the northern regions holding higher household sizes if we look at the Saudi households than the rest of the country. We also observed that there is 12% of households where the head of household is a woman. And if we look at the Saudi households only, it is 17% of Saudi households having a woman as head of households. Last information I want to share with you is the number of single households. We see that 14% of all Saudi households are single households with only one member in the household, whereas on the non-Saudi side, this is 39% of all non-Saudi households. We continue with a look at the methodology and quality of the Saudi census, and I ask Dr. Fatima to do the presentation.
إذا تفضلي. إذا يمكن أقدم الآن الدكتورة فاطمة الويف راح تحدث بشكل تفصيلي عن
in detail
والابتكارية اللي تم تنفيذها. الدكتورة فاطمة تفضلي.
شكرا دكتور فهد، شكرا دكتور كراد، مساء الخير للجميع. طبعا يشرفني العمل مع فريق التعداد الاحترافي بالهيئة للعمل على هذا المشروع الكبير في تعداد السعودية 2022. في الشرائح القادمة إن شاء الله سوف نقوم باستعراض أهم
about the methodologies, the standards, and also that have been used in order to enhance the quality of the results in 2022 census. The census of 2022 is that we have used the best technologies, tools, innovative solutions, and also we have used the best practices and expertise, and also the best solutions when it comes to census across the developed countries such as the USA, the UK, Australia, and other developed countries. Based on which, of course, when it comes to the census of Saudi Arabia, we have used different geographical data and the satellite images in order to identify locations more accurately or as accurately as possible, in addition to the field visits and work. This census is considered to be new in terms of the hybrid tools because it is adopted or where it is based on the accurate data, satellite imagery, also, and the field visit, and also we have used the best technologies and the best also digital forms using laptops and Apple laptops and iPads. We use different methods in order to enhance the quality of the information and without depending on field researchers. Also, we have used what is known as mistake review and discovery so that we can help to identify such mistakes. And also we have used digitized census such as kiosk, self-enumeration application, field force tool. We also conducted different census pilot. We also created interactive products such as dashboards to interactive maps. Moving ahead, we also used automated error detection tool, the most important of which is that we have used the best practices in order to ensure the best accurate and also the widest coverage. We have also used the high census quality outcomes such as the global best practices, high quality outcomes, full coverage of the entire population, accuracy level which was up to 95%. We also used 1 million quality interviews confirming 95% of census answers. Also monitored using the different international census experts. We used and we attracted and hired the best international census experts, accompanied by Saudi Census 2022 during census preparation and development, and also data collection, data processes, and data validation. We also focused on high quality data collection, including intensive training of field staff, pilot census, 25,000 households across Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We also used detailed address canvassing and also we used census quality assurance team, more than 800 plus quality staff during and after the data collection. More than, as I said, more than 800 staff with all the skills needed in census in order to ensure the quality of information and data. Applying these practices and standards, we have reached to the high quality outcomes in terms of the Saudi census in 2022 in comparison with the previous editions of censuses. In terms of the coverage and the accuracy, in terms of the coverage, we have reached full coverage of the population using multiple data sources and conducting quality checks to ensure the data used in the census. Speaking of the accuracy of the information and the data, we have, of course, based our work on corroborated census data with internal and external sources to ensure consistency and accuracy. Also, I'd like to focus on some activities that have been conducted to ensure the accuracy of these data. As I've said, we have worked on ensuring all the outcomes across all the data, and the most important of which we have worked on is working to census pilots. We have applied this in 5 areas across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and have covered 2, Diriyah and Al-Ula, so that we ensure the preparation and readiness of the systems, tools, devices, and the people and the field staff. We automated error detection tools in place, 21 million and plus SMS and 2 MN on outbound calls made to drive data collection. We also and adopted satellite image analysis in addition to 110,000 addresses, also 1 million quality interviews confirmed, 95% of survey responses. Also, we used 1/3 of the population used digital self-enumeration option. And this is the first time, of course, to have been used in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and have been also approved. In terms of the data collection, we have also used what is known as the data error detection, particularly before and after and while data are being collected. We also worked on more than 1 million phone interviews in order to ensure the data collected, or to ensure also the self-enumeration option. And also we have reached up to 95% of the information and the data collected. We have sent more than 121 million messages and also 2 million outbound calls made to drive data collection in order to engage them and encourage them to participate more and more. Also, accuracy were more and more, was more and more integrated into the data collected after, before, and while data were collection in order to make up the values lost and also to match and align the information and the data collected for the open sources data, whether inside or outside, I mean in-house and outside, and also to depend on the most updated research and data, for example, data of the electricity bills and other bills for the households. In addition, we used also the best. We also used the best, of course, method in order to ensure the missing data imputed through multiple data sources. We also use the quality check of administrative data sources through sign of life analysis. We also used more than 5 million residential buildings validated through electricity consumption data. We also dependent on what is known as statistical imputation of missing values using advanced statistics methods. We previously said that we use also more than 2 million databases to ensure and validate the accuracy of the information, in addition to the consistent data ensured through checks against multiple data sources. And also, we used 100% validated data through 200 validation checks and outlier detection tools. We also distributions of census variables validated through advanced statistical analysis. Again, speaking of the highest statistical confidentiality standards, data privacy was secured by replacing personal identifiers during processing, and we also ensured access to microdata granted only in controlled and secure environment. We also provided statistical disclosure, control, protection of individual data through target record swapping, fully compliant data and cybersecurity environment to reduce any violations as much as possible. Also, we provide, as I said, the statistical disclosure control in order to ensure and protect the individual data through target record swapping. We also worked on what is known as the compliance, the full compliance of data, and also the cybersecurity environment for the data. As for the data to access the microdata, of course, we worked on governance to grant such microdata only to the people relevant or in authorized to access such data in a controlled and secure environment. Thank you very much. Your attention is highly appreciated. That's my part. Thank you, Doctor. Thanks as well for Dr. Conrad and Dr. Fatma. And the first part of this webinar, we focused greatly on the experience of the authority, what is meant to be done or what has been achieved so far in 2020, in this Saudi census 2022. We are proud of all the tools, all the practices that have been adopted and used to reach the best results. We have said this different times that this census is unique because it's highly inclusive, highly integrated, as Dr. Fatmi said and Dr. Conrad said, also the accuracy of the information to ensure high quality of information as much accurate as possible. If you allow me now, I'd like to move on to a number of experts who worked closely with us to share their experiences with the authority. Please, I'd like to move on to speak in English.
Now we'll switch to English. Very much to all again for participating with us in this Saudi Census webinar. And we have 3 experts that worked with us, and we were actually glad to see them today with us, and many thanks to them for participating with us and sharing their experience during their experience with us in Saudi Census 2022. If I may start, with Professor Nancy Stiegler, head of the Statistics and Population Studies Department in the Faculty of National Sciences at the University of Western Cape. She actually worked or overseen 14 censuses globally, and we're very, very glad to have her on board and to work with us in the census as well. Professor Nancy, the floor is yours. Professor Nancy?
I was muted.
Yeah. We can hear you now. Please.
Thank you. So, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I had a real chance preparation stage of your census, and I was extremely glad to see such a census in terms of collaboration, in terms of organization. I was really impressed by the dedication. The dedication from all the personnel was pristine from the preparation phase to the data dissemination. And I must say that something that is quite rare is that I never really felt the census fatigue that usually we feel, because it's an enormous project. And this project was really well organized by the Saudi Office of Statistics with a detailed and continuous effective monitoring mechanism, organization and methodology at all levels, all steps of the census project. And this is extremely rare during censuses, especially, and this must be highlighted, in this specific situation where countries, not only Saudis, but all countries throughout the world had to find some solution to the COVID crisis and manage to run their censuses or postpone it. So Saudi was extremely dedicated, and they really managed in terms of the basic methodology and following all the international best standards, even in such a situation. Also, what was very good and also rare is that GISTAT has always worked with external experts, be it in terms of management or in terms of technical census knowledge. And this is very important, because working all together, we saw some issues. Gladly we saw some issues, but always problems in censuses. But what was very good is that the Office of Stats was always trying to find solutions and try to find the adequate answer. And that is not always the case, and that is not always very simple. So by collaborating with the best experts, they managed to get some answers, get the best knowledge that they could have, knowing that already internally the knowledge was very strong. Despite the short time to prepare, usually we prepare a census around perhaps 5 years. And we know that, again, because of COVID, etc., the time to prepare was shorter, but with the number of personnel and the technical materials and the technical power of the Office of Stats, they managed to really do a very serious census preparation. And I must say that I was every time, and I had the chance to work with GISTAT on quite a number of occasions. And what I could see really exceeded always my expectations. Next slide, please. Thanks. In terms of data collection, and that's very important, because data collection is finally key to a very good census. From the beginning, a control room was dedicated to daily meetings to follow, I was going to say minute after minute, hour after hour, the progress of the data collection, not only seeing the number of households that had responded, but also understanding if there was a problem over here or here, and managing then to face the problem and to find immediate solutions. And that, again, is very rare. What we also witnessed is that staff were very well organized and were provided with all the necessary equipment. Very, very important. This was also the case for the field workers, that any enumerator, supervisor, regional supervisor we met had exactly what was needed in terms of equipment. Also very important, the outfit, but also in terms of the technical, the questionnaire itself, which was a tablet. And this, we could witness that in terms of access to technique, IT, all the enumerators were very well provided. And if there was a tablet that had a problem, it was replaced within hours, if not minutes.
So at the national level, everything was very well organized, but we could see that at the decentralized level, so that means at the regional level, at the municipal level, when we visited all these schools, you know, that were organized in census offices, we could see that the organization of those sub-offices were very well organized throughout the country. As I said, all the field worker had the required material. I emphasize this because it's not always the case, and this is what made the census probably also a success. Again, I insist, but the preparation, the logistics were extremely important, and also something that was of a great importance was the organization between the central office and the sub-offices, and inside the central office, the fact that all the units could work together and did not work in silos. So this must be highlighted because this is also part of a good census. In terms of field worker, and they are finally the core of the census, we were very glad to see several, if not numerous, female enumerators on the field, really working perfectly. I must say that I was always amazed by the dedication and always wanting to understand, making sure that there were no inconsistency in the answer. So all the enumerators, gentlemen or ladies, were really well trained. They were very knowledgeable, polite, composed, and it's not always the case because it's a hard job. They were dedicated and patient, very motivated, and we can understand. We can remember that it was hot, that sometimes it was long. This is actually what some respondents said, that the interview was long, but this is the case in any census. But those respondents were actually always amazed by how smooth was the process. So we had those who answered to the enumerator, and who had those which self-enumerated. And I must say that the enumerator were able to really monitor those who had already responded, those who had self-enumerated, and finally those who had not yet responded and were going back until they had an answer. So, as we said, not only the field work was a success, but also the self-enumeration was a success, with about 30% of the population which answered, which is really commendable for the first hybrid census. In terms of monitoring and evaluation, and that was a very strong point of the Office of Stats, because from the beginning, GASTAT implemented serious control mechanism, internal control mechanism through sophisticated dashboards, but also in terms of coverage and in terms of quality. As I said before, every day we had at that time daily meetings to understand what was going on during the data collection. In parallel, and this is extremely rare, the data quality unit was almost rerunning some part of the interview, choosing 5 random questions. They were rolling, calling back quite a few number of households, about 1 million, I believe, which is a lot. And making sure that the answers that were provided at the time of the data collection were indeed the correct answer. So in terms of data quality, it is very important, and that was a very, very serious tool to manage the data quality, which we believe, by the way, me as a demographer, that is quite a good data quality when I look at the indicators and especially the shape of the population pyramid. In terms, and to finish, in terms of monitoring, the Office of Stats also was open to external monitoring, independent, where one could observe the different steps. One could observe the interviews, accessing enumerators, households, offices, and being able to see how the data collection went. And for this, I can tell you that it went well. So in conclusion, that was a very strong external and internal monitoring and evaluation mechanism from various experts, including the United Nations Population Fund, to make sure that the census was indeed in line with the best international practices.
Thank you very much, Professor Nancy, and I appreciate your support.
Shukran.
Thank you ever so much for your contributions, Dr. Professor Nancy, and thank you ever so much for the feedback.
Benefited from during the census. If I may now move to our next speaker, Dr. David Best, as the Director of Digital Services and Technology at the Office of National Statistics, and he has extensive experience in the UK census, and many thanks for the support and also for the contribution to the Saudi census 2022. Dr. David, the floor is yours.
Shukran, Dr. Fahad. Could I have the first slide, please? So just to give a little bit of background, my role in the Office for National Statistics was the digital transformation of the office, particularly with a view to the 2021 census. And I must say that my involvement with the Saudi census has been most interesting and worthwhile. And I regard it as one among the leading group of countries in applying digital technology and indeed new data sources to census activity. And I'll talk about that here. I also took part in the International Census Forum, which consists of the UK, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, where we met annually over the period that Dr. Nancy referred to, 4 or 5 years before 2021, to pool our experience and knowledge, ideas and problems about how we would conduct the next 10-year census. So where I can, I'll also bring those insights into this conversation. And of course, any census is only as the results of any census are only as valid as the data, as Professor Nancy referred to. And this data needs to be complete, it needs to be robust, and it needs to be valid. That is to say, accurate and complete, and true insofar as we can measure it. And one of the keys to that is to use multiple data sources, most importantly in the address frame. So identifying the households that are to be subject to the census. And the reason I refer to this first is that first point there, the use of multiple new data sources, I think is a real distinguishing characteristic of the Saudi census this year. The use of satellite imagery and geospatial data particularly, I have to say well in advance in that regard of that used in many of the European and Western countries, providing a very important input into the regional distribution, coverage and quality of the data. You will see at the back of the deck, and I can answer the questions about that during our Q&A. I've listed the administrative data sources used in the UK census. Electricity consumption data is really important, not only from the point of view of identifying households, addresses, and size, but also signs of life. In other words, has this address got people who are using electricity, and are they therefore resident at that address? So both satellite imagery, geospatial, electricity consumption, and then the more granular administrative data, border control data measuring people coming in and out of the country, administrative data on births, deaths, etc. All of these are extremely important in providing insight and reassurance about the coverage and quality of the data used in the census, quite apart from the enumeration of individual households. And the Saudi census's use of multiple new data, in my view, is extremely innovative and leading edge in many areas. And certainly as in the UK, and I think in a number of other of the International Census Forum countries, the Census 2022 was a digital first census. And certainly in ONS, in my department, we worked hard to try and ensure that as many households as possible and as many enumerators as possible were able to use digital technology for the census to increase the coverage, control the costs, minimize the error rates, minimize the level of data checking and manual intervention needed. I think the Saudi census has proved that this is an extremely valuable tool. And I would say that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is well up there in the leading edge of the use of these technologies. So, for example, leveraging geospatial analytics for address canvassing, getting digital data entry right at source, not only in the self-enumeration, of whom a third of the population completed this themselves online, but also allowing your field staff to enter enumeration data during their interviews, using the tablet tool, which Professor Nancy referred to, and the enumeration app. So this capturing data at the point of entry as part of the census to lead to a digital first census is a really important stage in input, and is hugely valuable in validating the quality of the data, ensuring its completeness and its robustness, and enabling the automated error checking, which you've also applied, to be used to extremely good effect. So that has led you to what is noted as a census accuracy, which we estimate at least 95%. On the output side, of course, the third point on that slide, I'm sorry, could you go back one? Thank you. The development of digital reports and information sheets and dashboards, which enable those that are interested and the analysts and the statisticians themselves to dive into the detailed distribution of data in the census, not only geographical and geospatial information, but input and output tables, enabling pivot tables to be used for more microdata access and interpretation. Again, this is an essential set of tools which cannot be used really without a digital first data entry application. And I think the way in which the 22 data first release is being visualized is extremely advanced, certainly when we compare it with some other countries. So if you could go to the next slide, thank you very much. I've been extremely pleased to work with other colleagues internationally in the GSTAT census. The KSA census has been aligned throughout with global standards and best practices. I've been very pleased in particular to work with Connie Gratz-Day from Canada, other colleagues from Australia and the US in helping and supporting this process. And I've been very impressed by the openness of the team in asking very openly for comments, observations, ideas, testing, using us to test their innovation, and using international and indeed national best practices. The key learnings which have been adopted from other nations that have done censuses by involving external experts, the development of quality criteria, the coverage and accuracy of the census, and in particular, the use of administrative data to triangulate and increase the robustness of data, I think has been very impressive. And that's been well demonstrated, for example, by the close alignment between household ownership and the census data. We will see a graph later on, not now, but later on the very close coincidence of administrative and census data around household and ownership. The population numbers, I think, show a really interesting pattern. And again, Dr. Conrad referred in his introduction to the use of the current census data to backcast, to retrofit these data to the way in which the population has changed since the last census. And that method is precisely the same that we use in the UK, and is exactly the same as used in other countries, using net inward and outward migration and administrative data on births and deaths, etc. I also think it's impressive that the first release has been launched in the very short space of time that it has. Again, I think, which is a tribute to the preparation which Professor Nancy referred to, and also to the achievement of the digital data entry, which I've already talked about. Using this best technology to support the census data production and self-enumeration, plus the use of the tablet app by the enumerators in interviewing members of the population, has all reduced the processing time required, reduced the error rate, enabled the application of automated error checking, and all of these things are very necessary to enable the release of data, accurate data, processed in record time. So we can go to the next slide, please. So I talked about the coverage of the whole population, and you can see from the graph immediately on the left the very high consistency between the age pyramid and the administrative data that shows the same thing. There you have the census data in red and administrative record data in blue, and you can see that with very few exceptions, there's an extremely close correlation between the two, which gives one great confidence with regard to the census data validated there by the admin data. The number of phone interviews and the random checking of enumeration results by telephone operators checking those random series of questions, a very high level of data accuracy and great confidence from that intervention that the census data is accurate. I think 95% confirmation is an extremely good result. The challenges of geography, giving that result, I think, is extremely good. Similarly, the consistency across the variables, a little bit difficult to see that in that circled figure there. But the example is of the consistency between building materials and dwelling types from administrative data and given from the census, a very high result there, and the same can be said of the other examples in that slide. So I think overall, if we take the application of the advanced data technologies that you have, certainly leading edge in modern census conduct, the use of multiple administrative data sources to validate that, the use of telephone and personal enumeration to further achieve the coverage and to check the accuracy and validity of the data that's being collected. I think the Saudi census team are to be congratulated on the achievement of a very impressive result. And one of the advantages you have actually is that you don't have the 200 years of limitations that we've suffered in the UK. You have the advantage of being able to make these innovations quickly and very effectively, and I think the results are very clear. So I take my hat off to the census team in the achievement of this of the 22 census. There are some other features in the slides I've provided. We're very happy to answer questions later in our webinar.
Thank you very much, Dr. David, and again, do appreciate your support during the census, the Saudi census 2022, and maybe to stress on or focus on one word that you mentioned, the openness, and this is the what we're stressing with our colleagues, and I'm glad that you're confirming that. And part of this workshop as well for us to be transparent with everyone about the methodology that has been used and also what have been done during the census. So do appreciate your support and also experience during the census. If I may move now to Dr. Alexander Quarek, and he's the head of methods at the Statistics Austria, and published more than 50 statistical reports. Again, many thanks for your support, Dr. Alex, and I'm sure you have some experience as well to share with the rest of the world, how your experience with the Census 22 as well. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and of course for the opportunity to lend my expertise in various aspects of methodology. I see right now just, yeah, thank you. Now I see my slide. The one thing I want to talk about today is disclosure risk, or how to avoid disclosure risk more. We heard a lot about the quality of the data, and we saw some results. And of course, with high quality data and detailed results, there is also some inherent risk of disclosure of individual data, and you have to take several steps to ensure that the data is safe and the published results are safe. And I will run through a couple of steps with this in this regard. So the very first step when data is coming in through the various channels we have seen before is that personally identifiable information is removed. So that includes, of course, names, but also personal IDs, date of birth, phone number, etc. That are not necessary, furthermore, for any statistical calculations, but are only there while the data collection is running and is used for the data collection. A second step is statistical disclosure control, and this is applied on the microdata level mostly. There's record swapping. We have a few details on that on the process on the next slide. There's rounding of values, cell perturbation, suppression of specific values, and variable recoding. So variable recoding, that sounds very abstract, but that's, for example, that you don't see directly the nationality, like single country nationality in the tables, but Saudi, non-Saudi, that's already a variable recoding. So STC methods might sometimes are easy to apply, others are more complicated. Then it is important that the data stored has limited access. So only on a need-to-know basis, the teams had access to the microdata. So this means that the data science team that were assigned to validate the census data had access to the microdata, to the census microdata, and the data processing team that performed data operations, for example, imputations, had access to the data. So the method that is recommended from the European Statistical System for STC of Census 2021 round in the European context is target record swapping. So one swapping method. We implemented this method in the Saudi census to ensure the privacy of individuals and households. And also in the maps, you can find already published STC is integrated in the GIS mapping. So the goal was to provide high level of detail, but we have to protect individual data while doing so. The global best practices were followed throughout data processing, as well as National Cyber Security Authority and National Data Management Office's data controls were implemented in the data processing phase. There are, of course, several products created, digital and tabular form from the census data. There are reports topical reports on a regional level. We have dashboards and maps up to the governorate level. There were thresholds implemented when the information is okay to be published. So there is not a disclosure risk for the aggregated data. So maybe that is not obvious that there is a disclosure risk or an identification risk for individuals in output tables, but there with highly detailed tables, you could end up with cells with very few persons or households contributing to, for example, just one person, and then you could learn also from output tables something on an individual level. So this has to be checked as well, and STC has to be performed. There is also a public use microdata file. So that's actually a microdata file from the census, but it's not the full census file. It's a sample from the census file, and the variables are also STC protected, so protected against disclosure risk. So for example, the level of details of the variables is not as high as in the original census file. Next slide, thank you. So I mentioned STC, statistical disclosure control, already a few times. STC is a technique used by basically all statistical offices to ensure that no person or organization is identifiable from the results in a published statistical report or in the released microdata. And the purpose of STC is therefore to protect the confidentiality of the respondents. And of course, that is very, very, very important step that respondents can have the trust in the statistical authorities that they can provide accurate information. So this was, of course, the case in this census project. And you see here the workflow. So we had the microdata export, so the data coming through this data collection process and data processing process. Then there was a microdata export. We used the target record swapping methodology and developed it so it's fitting to this scenario. And applied the methodology. And what we end up with is we call an authentic data set. So that's the data set where STC applied. And what is important that all the publications are then computed from this authentic data set. So from this STC applied, so the protected data set, output tables are generated. It's used for table builder and the spatial data, so the maps, for example, or also later grid publication. So with all these steps, we ensured that the information provided by individuals or the information from individuals coming from admin data or other data sources is not anymore identifiable in either the public use microdata files or the produced results. Thank you.
Dr. Alex, and if I may also stress in the importance of the privacy of each individual and also organization. So we do appreciate your support in that area, and we learned from this experience as well, and appreciate your contribution and also experience that has been very significant also for the census. I think now we end the session on the experts' experience with the census 2022. We posted in our website and also on the screen the email if anyone has questions, and in fact we received a number of questions, and I appreciate the lively participation from participants as well. This is very, very important. If I may just mention that some questions I'll ask it in English, and also some questions we'll ask it in Arabic. So if I may start with two questions to you, Dr. Conrad. And I'll try to maybe translate from Arabic to English. I'll test my translation skills here. First question, we mentioned that this is a hybrid exercise, the hybrid census versus census that purely based on field work. How that actually impact in the usage of ADMA records? Did we actually use ADMA records to complement the census or as a quality check? So this is one question. The second question, we mentioned that we backcasted from 2010. Why didn't we backcast it from 2011, which is all based on estimates, and we had to go to 2010 as backcasting exercise? Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for these questions to the audience. Before answering those questions, I would like to thank the whole team for the efforts that were made. This is really a teamwork, and what we can present to you today is not Dr. Fahad, Dr. Conrad, and Dr. Fatima alone, but it is really a work of a large group of people who are dedicated over the last couple of years, international experts, just as well as GSTAT staff, to make this happen. So thank you for that. On your two questions, the first one, how did we use administrative records, and what is a hybrid census that we applied? When you produce statistics, you try to answer questions. And the most important question in a census is the population count. So the number of people residing in a country on a permanent basis. So in order to best inform this question, we use multiple sources. This was mentioned previously in the discussion already. Multiple sources, meaning that we collect data directly from households through field work, through self-enumeration, telephone checkups. We secondly use administrative records. Administrative records are used for government procedures. They do not always correspond to exactly the question that you need to answer in statistics. So you need to impose some treatments. And thirdly, you use other data sources like electricity consumption, like satellite images. So the whole purpose is to give the best possible answer to the question in the census, which is how many people live in this country. So we made use also of administrative records. But before using administrative records, we applied a so-called sign of life analysis, meaning that you do not simply add every person which is showing up in administrative records, but we need to be compliant with international standards on how a population in the census is defined. And one example for that would be that you do not want to count people who are only visiting the country, who hold only visitors licenses or visitors legitimation in to reside in the country for a few weeks or months. But you want to cover the population which is residing in the country on a longer period, longer term. So we used administrative records to complement our data, to validate the information that we collected in the field, to provide the most accurate answer. The second question was on backcasting. Why did we backcast back to 2010? First of all, I need to stress that we are in a privilege to be able to backcast. Why? Because we have very, very accurate numbers for the year 2022. And we now hold data from administrative records to basically reconstruct the past. Why did we not stop in 2011, but include 2010? Because we are now able to correct some problems that arose during the 2010 census. During the 2010 census, there were some data collection problems, and also definitions were not completely the same as we are using in the 2022 census. And in order to compare apples with apples, we went back to 2010 in our backcasting.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, if I may, I'll switch to Arabic. So I have two questions to Dr. Fatma in Arabic. عندي سؤالين.
Two questions to Dr. Fatma. First question is the use of on asking people, individuals, while most of the data were based on the administrative data and government data. So this was one question. How did you use the national address to identify the location where households live and stay? The other question, you also refer to one thing about the quality of data, which is advanced data. Could you cite some examples or draw some examples? Thank you so much, Dr. Fahd. As for the first question, why we have adopted on taking data from people rather than just depending on record data, first of all, because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is witnessing such a great advantage of the digital transformation. That is why we use the record data, but still some pieces of information that are detailed that cannot be made available unless otherwise we use the record data. And the most important of which, we depended heavily on the record data for the national addresses. But again, individuals to the permanent residence addresses. So that is why we benefited from the record data available along with the field work in order to have as much coverage as possible and as much accurate information and data as possible. As for how we benefited from the national addresses, I'd like to draw your attention to one thing that we have used, and we have depended on all the resources of information, the most important of which is the Saudi Post, and along with the national addresses, along with the satellite information data, in order to identify the addresses, the residential addresses, where, of course, people stay together, so that also we visit such places to ensure the information and ensure that such people really live in such addresses or at such addresses. Again, we also would like to ensure that some people may have different national addresses. When it comes to linking people where they stay, we depend on linking such people to where they live, and that is why we do our best, of course, to be far away from duplicating the results, taking into consideration. Second one, we also notice this in other components, also referring to the different units, and also using the national addresses for the permanent residences in addition to the secondary national addresses. The question relating to the quality of data, what are the data analysis? We can divide this. The first stage, we did not only validate the data after we collect the data, but also we did this in two stages. In the first, in the data collection, we have more than 200 check databases to help us identify errors, if any, and also so that we can help to address such errors by the quality team. Again, we have taken a randomly selected sample across all the regions of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to see a representative or representation sample of data to ensure the quality of such data. Whether enumeration, this sample was about 1 million individuals, regardless of the Saudi and non-Saudi nationalities, and which of course showed 95% in terms of the in terms of the consistency of the data collected. Because also after data collection, we validated the values of all the variables by studying the interrelations between these data, such as like the relationship between age, education, work. In addition, as I've said, to benefit from the record data to make up any missing data, and also using them in the form, statistical form, to make up any missing data. These are probably an overview of things and procedures that we have adopted to ensure the data. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
If I may switch back to English, and I have a question to our experts. If I may, a question of two parts. One, your experience, international experience in different censuses, how do you compare it to Saudi Arabia? I know you highlighted that, but the question how the methodology that used in Saudi Arabia is aligned with international practice. This is one. And two, what technologies that has been used in Saudi Arabia that you feel it's going to be a leading example of a success in any census in the future? Maybe I can start with Professor Nancy, if I may.
Well, in terms of preparation and international standards and basic census rules, everything was in line indeed with the international guidelines in terms of data collection, in terms of inclusion of the population, which is extremely important, and in terms of preparation, all the steps were rigorously respected, with not one pilot census, but two pilot censuses, plus some tests and extra tests. So with all the different steps, indeed, GSTAT applied the basic rules and follow the international guidelines. Now, if the question is to compare with the rest of the,
this is something that is a bit hard to do because every country has a very different situation, very different type of financial means, technical means. So it would not be was very fair to say, okay, this is better than or whatever. What we can say, it is a good census that has followed the rules, and that is the most important.
Maybe now we ask Dr. David the same questions.
Yes, I think from the technology point of view, your use of geospatial and GIS information and technology is really interesting. I can see that having a lot of applicability elsewhere in the future. Again, taking Professor Nancy's caution, some countries will not be able to use it for technical or financial reasons, but where they can, I think your use of that will prove to be very important. I think the other area where you are leading edge, and certainly comparable with the 5 census countries that I'm familiar with, is in the digital self-enumeration and the use of digital technology for the enumerators themselves who go from door to door. The use of that in the pilot and the ability in the future to use digital technology to do multiple pilots, to refine and validate approaches and methods to address and participant identification. Again, I think there is some, if I was looking to write some papers to present to international conferences on your experiences, that would certainly be, I think, a really good area to explore further. In terms of other areas, as Professor Nancy has said, I think you are very well comparable with the other countries with which I'm familiar in terms of methodology, in terms of best practice, in terms of process and data quality. That's all I could say, really.
Doctor. Dr. Alex, please.
Yes, thank you. So in terms of methodology, I would say the census is very much in line with international recommendations, especially in the area I worked in more closely, editing and imputation. The methods used are not like just ad hoc methods for this census, but well-known and implemented methods. As well as we have seen for the statistical disclosure control, we used a pre-existing and tested methods to ensure the privacy of respondents. What I personally really liked is the dissemination portal of the census. So it's really nice that it's not just tables, but it's immediately you have dashboards and you have maps and interacting with the data in that way. I think it's very important, so you get a kind of a feeling for the results much more than you would get from just the table with results. So I think that is very of course it's hard to rank countries because it's also a matter of taste, but I really like it personally how you presented that data.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Nancy, you wanted to add something, please?
Sorry, I just want to add something. Indeed, your data dissemination is also very good, and it's going to be very useful because you start to deliver very useful numbers and indicators. But there is also something that I want to say is that your Office of Statistics has managed to do something extremely rare. They have managed with the very strong monitoring and evaluation and auditing methodology. And it is an effort. We have to understand that it is really hard. It is an effort. When one run a census, you don't always have time. This is not always a priority. It was a priority for GSTAT, and that's very important. And it also enables your statistical office to have constructed something invaluable, it's census memory, because I've never seen a statistical office which has built so much census memory, recording everything. And this is going to serve not only the next census, but your surveys and any data collection exercise that you are going to do, and perhaps that your sister ministers are going to do. This is extremely, extremely important. And I really wanted to commend the Office of Statistics also for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And really proud of the effort that has been done in this census, and really honored to be part of the team. Dr. Conrad and also Dr. Fatma, they contributed significantly, and the team, as mentioned by Dr. Conrad, we have hundreds of colleagues from planning, data collection, analysis, quality analysis as well, to disseminating the data. So all teams that has contributed to this effort, actually proud of what we've reached. Also your help, experts and other experts that we worked with them. We actually value their input, which was very important for us to reach a comprehensive and also a census with the high quality of work and following the best international standard. Very proud moment for all of us, and appreciate the effort from everyone. And if I may switch to Arabic now, يعني مرة أخرى سعيدين صراحة بالإنجاز.
We are very happy to see such a great efforts that have been made in terms of the Saudi Census 2022. High level of transparency across all stages of work, including dissemination, and today also the webinar. We are very much keen and willing to share all that we have in terms of what have been achieved in the Saudi Census 2022, and also share all the procedures that ensured and guarantee the high level of quality, and also to reach high level of inclusion and integration. Big thanks go to all the team, the working team groups, and also all the staff working in the GSTAT, all the different entities, government entities, and all those who have really contributed to making it successful. So big thanks go to all. Also the subject matter experts who have really contributed and and who focused, of course, on the quality of work in the census, of course, and we are very proud of your own efficient contribution to enhancing the quality of work and also providing all the expertise and experiences for the work. The Saudi census 2022, of course, heavily and widely contributed to making such high accurate information and data available, and we hope to be always such great census data, the bedrock of yet more censuses yet to come, and also help us more and more to provide more development and growth plans through the data and the information that will be made available based on the census. We will have more. We will announce stage once the information or the data are made available, and which will cover different sectors. Thank you very so much, and your attention is highly appreciated. Thank you so much. Stay. Bye bye. Bye bye.